Oh my god, Moon Knight episode 6, the season finale was amazing and definitively shows that this is the best MCU show yet. Top 5 MCU things for me overall. I'm so excited to discuss this finale with you guys. So make sure to leave a comment down below, as well as hit that like and subscribe button, because I actually got to see Doctor Strange early. My review's up, tons of content, and I have an MCU ranking coming out later this week. So look forward to that. Let's dive right into this episode. Moon Knight had a lot to do in this episode. I was worried. Then I saw the runtime was like only 45 minutes, and I'm like, whew, how are they going to solve all this? And the finale was action-packed. It had a lot. It gave us just enough for when we're excited to see what comes next. And we had a lot of badass stuff happen in here. So let's start from the beginning of this episode and discuss it from right there. And again, guys, please leave a comment, because I have to hear your thoughts on this episode and what your favorite moment was. Especially that end credit scene, boy. We finally got Jake Lockley, baby! So as a big fan of Moon Knight, there was a lot of nice Easter eggs in here. And again, just opening up in this episode, we come back, we see where it had left us at last point, where we see Ethan Hawke's Harrow is, pulling Mark's body out. And then we see Layla, who's around the corner, who Maya does such an amazing job with this character, and I've absolutely fallen in love with Layla, and I can't wait to see more of her inside the MCU, especially like seeing how, I'm assuming she's going to keep that suit. I know she's just being an avatar for this one, but I don't believe it. And I don't know about you guys. Did you guys get like Wonder Woman 1984 vibes from the suit? Because that's my Wonder Woman, man. She's badass. She can kick Wonder Woman's ass any day, but I loved that whole introduction setup and how it's kind of building up to that. Where were they while Mark's been kind of doing with this? What's been going on in this? Because last episode probably seemed like forever, but in a sense it was probably only about an hour or two with what Layla ended up doing. And she's taking on Harrow, but then our favorite person, the hippopotamus, is standing there possessing the dead and like saying, hey, do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And she ends up going towards and following Harrow, gets there, breaks Khonshu out, and Khonshu and her have this great discussion, this great back and forth that I was really on board for. And I really dug that, because in the end of the day, Khonshu ended up noticing like she's not gonna put up with his shit. But at the same time of this, of breaking him out, Amit got broken out from Harrow, and we see this giant alligator godlike thing. And some of the CGI, again, is a little bit hit or miss. It seems like definitely this had a smaller budget out of all the MCU stuff, but for the most part, it looked pretty decent, and I really loved that interaction. And then when Khonshu comes into that room and they start throwing down and they have that great dialogue back and forth with one another, that was excellent. But the intersplicing back to, of course, our main character, Mark Spector, and where he was at last. He's in paradise, but he's like, this isn't right. I need to save Steven. Ends up going back, saving Steven. The gates open, and they head back in, and they survive. Khonshu feels that after getting his ass pummeled by Amit, disappears and goes back to them, which sets up for the next 20 minutes of just kick assery, as Mark and of course Steven now living and coinciding with one another. And this isn't a perfect adaptation. This isn't a one-for-one adaptation from a lot of the comics. There's so many different interpretations, but this is what I've loved about the MCU, is how they are able to dive into these characters and expand them, give them different interpretations, and really make this their version of Moon Knight, which I have really much come to love. There's so many different versions of him from the comics. This is just another version for me to appreciate and love. And what Oscar Isaac is doing, the way he's flipping back and forth between Mark and Steven was incredible. But of course, they had that great discussion with Khonshu, what they're doing and how it's going to work out, and then they end up flying towards Egypt. They turn it back to night, they fly towards it. Layla ends up getting her own powers because they find out the only way to conceal Amit is they need another avatar. All this stuff and shit ensues and goes crazy. Amit is taking in the souls. Harrow is helping. Moon Knight jumps onto that pyramid and just runs up, and they start fighting and flying around. It was great how he's grabbing onto the cape, and then it switches into Mr. Knight. So many amazing action sequences in here that just excited me to no end. I just sat there in awe of how awesome these sequences were, and seeing them fly around in the air and then hit the ground and really much go at each other. It was awesome. And then at the same time, getting this giant Khonshu or kaiju battle between Khonshu and Amit, these gods fighting among it. And I love how Mohammed Diab, the director of this, very much wanted to bring the life, the culture of Egypt to this series. And he brings it in such a visceral and beautiful way that we have never seen Egypt, in my opinion, in film like this before, or in TV. It's always in such a filtered out color, and this is just stunning to see how he was able to develop such a battle for this. And the pacing for this is very fast paced and moves at a brisk pace while never taking, we took our time the last few episodes to really further out and develop everything to the point where you believe everything is happening. You are invested in this final sequence, and it really much is like one of those Marvel movies you watch, any of the MCU films, where it builds and builds and builds, but it gives you that development, that satisfaction, that awesome action sequence, and we get that here. And maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe you absolutely hated this episode. Maybe it made you hate the entire show. Fine, we can disagree and have a great conversation, but I was so into this, and then seeing Layla come in, and them all just kick ass and kick Haro's ass and kick all of his mercenaries' ass, and switching between Mr. Knight and I'm in heaven, man. I'm on cloud freaking 9 from this episode, and I loved it. I loved seeing Mr. Knight go out and kick ass, and seeing Steven actually develop that. There's so many great action choreographed scenes in here, and just in the way that they're taking down Haro was just awesome. And then it comes down to this one in particular moment, Layla and Mark, they're teaming up to take down Haro, and then she has to go save, which again, love the way that they're using the wings. It's just so developed. She's such a badass. I love how Maya plays this character, and their reunion, by the way, was just so, it was perfect. I really love that hug that they gave each other, and when she saw Mark dead, it was a very personal and sad tale right there, because you felt it. Like, she didn't just lose Mark, she lost Steven, and she lost her damn husband, her best friend, the only person still in her life. And even though from right before then they were not in the best way, because she found out what had happened with her father, but man, she knows deep down that Mark's not a bad guy. Like, he has always been trying to do the good things in life. And for me in this moment, it was so important. And just seeing them battle and team up with one another was freaking awesome. I don't know if she's going to continue to have her powers. I don't know. I literally have no idea, but I loved it. And then, of course, Haro gets the upper hand. She's stuck, all these sorts of things. And as he's pounding on him, and it just seems like everything's about to end, there's only like 15 minutes left in the episode, I'm like, Jake Lockley's going to come out. Which, again, blacks out. Everyone's dead, defeated. And Layla's like, Mark, what did just happen? He goes, I don't know, I blacked out. They take the body back, they imprison Amit in there, and then Khonshu's like, hey, you need to do my bidding. Kill them now. He disobeys him and tells Khonshu to let him go, and Khonshu says, okay, and disappears, and it flashes back to the mental institution. And for a second, I'm like, no, you can't end just on that. Please do not. Continue some great interactions with, of course, Ethan Hawke's Haro, all the sorts of things in the therapist. When we see the blood on the ground, it's them awaking from their nightmare. And when they wake up in Steven's shitty apartment. Mark's sitting there. No Layla, just them. They get out, and it starts right as the series had started back up. Right as they get out of bed, they hit the ground, and it just ends there and kicks back into the music. And the end credit scene, that's where we have to go, because the credits are playing. I see there's still like 8 minutes. I'm like, there's an end credit scene. And we get to this, and we see Haro in the asylum, and someone's walking him out. I'm like, okay, this is very interesting, is what's going to be happening here. And when he gets put into this limo, we know there's someone in there. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, is it going to be someone we know in the MCU? Is it going to be a debut? Which, I was totally wrong. I was, predicting maybe we'll get a cameo from someone else in the Marvel Universe. Say, I don't know, Mark Ruffalo, or, maybe this is our first thing of Mahershala Ali's Blade, or maybe something that goes to the Werewolf by Night, that could be possibly happening this year. There's many rumors that they're filming a Halloween special right now, so maybe that could be it. No, it's Khonshu, which totally embodies something from the comics of him in the suit, looking, talking, and then he says it. Jake Lockley. Window comes down. You see Oscar Isaac turn back around. He has the cabbie hat on. He has the silencer. And he speaks in an amazing accent. And he tells him goodbye, pretty much. Silencer kills him, drives off, and the show ends there. I love this show. It was perfect. It was everything I could want, and it was easily the best MCU show yet. The way that they developed every single thing, the characters, everything of that nature. I personally still wish the season, on like a personal bias, was 8 episodes. I think we could have gotten even more development with, say, Layla, maybe even other things. But the way that it was developed, it really much is a 6-episode movie. And you take that and it's like, what, maybe over 4 or 5 hours altogether? It's a 5-hour movie. And I love that. I ate this up. I love everything that had to do with the psychological nature, the horror tendencies, and all the stuff within the Egyptian culture. This was phenomenal. I cannot wait to see Moon Knight again. It blew my mind, and it absolutely hit my expectations for what it should be. And again, I cannot wait to hear your guys' thoughts. So thank you so much again for watching this. Follow me along. We definitely have Obi-Wan coming up very soon. I cannot wait to review that series. Going to be staying up till midnight for all of those. As well, guys, hit that like and subscribe button, and look forward to a lot of different Marvel content coming up soon. You see a bunch of different cards for Doctor Strange and all sorts of other fun madness. So thank you once again, guys, for watching. And of course, until next time, stay classy.